and get started here with our CD 2.3 pre-training webinar. We've got a few things we're going to go over. I kind of sent out the agenda. We're going to go through lesson plans 2, 3, 4, 7, and then we're going to talk about setting up a favorite and then answer any questions anyone's had or anyone's having on registrations in AgLearn, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and we'll get diving in here. So I just wanted to give a basic overview. The first 2 lesson plans in the lesson plan guides that you'll get at trainings will talk about updates in Conservation Desktop. I didn't feel like it was necessary to bore you with those documents or that because we're going to end up diving into further detail. But I wanted to give you a basic overview, and I understand that some of this might be kind of small for you to see. But in our 2.2 lesson plan, or in our 2.2 release, there were some items that still had to be completed in Toolkit. As you can see in 2.3 now, all of the Farm Bill workflow items can be completed in Conservation Desktop and ProTrack. So all the way from taking an application to building a plan, printing maps, and finalizing the contract and going through obligation. So there's that workflow, and the same with the CTA workflow. Everything can be completed in Conservation Desktop. You will get a copy of both of these workflow pictures, I don't know what to call them, in your lesson plan manual as well when you come to the training. So don't feel like you need to write these down, but it is kind of nice for a new planner to kind of figure out where they need to start, where they need to go next, and what to do, and then in what application to do those in. So that's basically what kind of those first 2 lesson plans talk about. The reason why we're just going to start with lesson plan 2. But if you want to go back once you get the manual and look through those first few pages, you can do that on your own time. So lesson plan 2 talks about the Conservation Desktop roles. Conservation Desktop has all of the roles set in Z roles, and that's either set by a state or national role grantor. That is myself and Jerry Coral. We are going to be having an updated IRM 3 to be completed for new employees. For those that are already employees of NRCS right now or affiliates, I have already completed your Conservation Desktop roles and added those in there for you. I've set up everybody with a certified planner role for training. The reason I did that is because I wanted to give everyone everything they could see. Most of our people working in Conservation Desktop are working towards being a certified planner. So I figured I'd give it to you so you would see what you need to do for what you're going to have in the end. A lot of people are still going to have planning support roles, and in the production environment, you will have the role that is specific for you. So you will, if you are not a certified planner yet, you will only have planning support. Or if you're a technical specialist planner, you will just have a planning support role. Or if you're a certified planner as well, you get certified. So just depending on what you have completed is what you'll have in your roles. Conservation Desktop uses other systems as well to complete or to have all of the roles work in Conservation Desktop. So you have to have CD roles to do conservation planning in CD. You have to have ProTrack roles to be able to look at the financial assistance information in Conservation Desktop. You have to have CD roles that entitle a user to use easement data or to access easement data. Technical assistance documents currently still require Toolkit permissions. So once we get rid of Toolkit, we will still have permissions in there for a little while until we switch over those roles to be Conservation Desktop. And then all FA documents require ProTrack roles. So if you're working with financial assistance stuff, or financial assistance programs, you will need ProTrax roles, and Conservation Desktop and ProTrax work very, very close, much closer than Toolkit and ProTrax used to. So here are the roles that we have for both technical assistance and financial assistance roles. So first I'll go with technical assistance. There's the State Business Tools Coordinator, the grants roles. That's myself and Jerry Coral. Planning support would be anyone who supports conservation planning but does not have planner certification currently. And then certified planner, the name will show up on the certified planner list in the preferences, and then they're going to continue to build out things that the certified planner is going to do. And then the easement reconciliation role is to lock and unlock easement land units. Some of you I know talked with me this last fiscal year about unlocking easement land units to change the track numbers, track land unit ID numbers, and so myself or Jerry can do that. So if you do have any issues with that, let me know if you have any problems with easements in their land units. Financial assistance roles. So there's the State Business Tools Coordinator for financial assistance, which is state programs. So that would be Lori Captive and Ron Brooks. And then I also have that role as well, just so I can see everything. Program support assistance comes from the ProTrax Farm Bill Specialist role. That's Gwen and Carrie. Most people on this call probably have the planner role from ProTrax. That carries over in Conservation Desktop. And then designated conservationists also carry over from ProTrax. So those are the roles. In the lesson plans, you'll probably see that there's a whole bunch of other roles, but I didn't feel the need to include all of the national, all of those roles that we aren't going to be using. So I'm going to go on to lesson plan 3. I'm giving you all just kind of a rough shot. I didn't want to read through these lesson plans on these because we're going to do that in the actual training. So I thought I'd give you the brief on these ones. So lesson plan 3, Conservation Desktop terminology. I was talking with a few planners the other day about Conservation Desktop and how they feel they're going to be able to adopt it. And they said brand new planners are probably going to have a really easy time adopting Conservation Desktop, but people who have been working in Toolkit for a long time are going to have a few headaches. Just trying to get the lingo down and just trying to make sure where buttons are, but relatively I would say everything's similar. And you'll find that in the training, all of our trainers, we will probably mix match all of these terms back and forth because that's just what we have known. And so in Conservation Desktop, like the very first one is an agreement item or item, and in Toolkit we refer to it as a contract item number. The reason we're changing a lot of these terms is because we're dealing with easements as well. We're integrating easements into Conservation Desktop instead of Toolkit. It was really just built for EQIP, CSP, Farm Bill program stuff, not easements. So we're wanting to make it more, all the terms similar. So, yeah, so like service down at the bottom, servicing offices is now servicing office instead of used to be field office, or schedule. And our practice schedule used to be plan and cons plan. So we're going to intermingle a lot of those words, so just bear with us. I want to dive into just a few. Just a reminder to mute your phones if you can, if you remember to. Conservation Desktop's integration with ProTrax, like I said, is monumental, much more than it was with Toolkit. And it was pretty connected. So there's 6 agreement item definitions that I felt like needed to just be refreshed. Some of the experienced users probably can put it together, but I figured I'd go over them. So there are, I think, 9 or 10, but I just chose to do 6 because they're the ones that made the most sense. So a payment schedule agreement, this is our typical ProTrax agreement contract. They're going to be developed in Conservation Desktop. Cost lists automatically update in CD. So no more do we have to send out an Excel sheet and say upload this toolkit and then, oh sorry, we used the wrong one. Here's another update. These ones are going to come straight from the payment schedule application tool. Well, that's where it's the payment schedule agreement. It's coming from that tool that Ron Brooks and Denise Atkins put together every year for the cost list. They're identified by an agreement number that's assigned from Protrax, comes from the program source, program, fiscal year, not editable by the user. Some items that are editable are the eligible and pre-approved status. Read-only statuses, or it's editable when it's in eligible and pre-approved status, and it's in read-only status when it's in pending or approved or once it's obligated. The synchronized editing between Protrax and CD, I think this is one of the best things from the 2.3 release because you can do something in Protrax and it automatically will update in Conservation Desktop and vice versa. So you don't have to check in the folder and check out the folder. It'll automatically, there's a little refresh button you have to hit in Conservation Desktop and it works beautifully. I love that part. 1155 and 1156, conservation products cannot be completed in Conservation Desktop for PSA agreements. In Desktop, they have to be completed in Protrax, which is nice because sometimes we get kind of confused on which version of the 1155 is which, and so that kind of cleans this up a little bit. So cost list agreement, or a CLA. So agreement items will be developed in CD. The cost list, a CD cost list is the cost source. So there will be cost lists. This is meaning like CRP, any other kind of technical CTA work that we may do will be done in the CLA agreements. This is also the easements is a CLA. So ASTEP, any ASTEP agreements will run through this CLA structure. Once you save and enter the cost list agreement, the program, fiscal year, and cost source are no longer editable. Once you've completed the 1155 or finalized everything, the 1155, 1156 forms can be printed through Conservation Desktop and uploaded to DMS as well. So that's CLA, an agreement item. This one's pretty basic, but it's a conservation practice or activity that a participant agrees to implement or perform according to the terms and conditions of an agreement or contract. Associated with one practice code and a practice narrative that's scheduled on the same calendar year. So you could bundle these together, or they could be a whole bunch of separate ones depending on what they have. So that's an agreement item, or it would be our contract item from the past. A component of an agreement item is the same as the Protrax component. Describes the materials or actions that are required to implement the practice associated with the agreement item. Component contains information to be able to calculate what exactly we're paying on or that we're using. So when the practice is completed. So that's a component. An agreement item number is just a number that is associated to the agreement item. An agreement item must have unique numbers, so it's going to be 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll see here the next is the sub-item number. So it's the A, B, and C after the numbers based on how many agreement sub-items or how many components that you have in the agreement item. So number is always the same as the agreement item number of the component that it's linked to. If there's no cost share item, the sub-item is blank. So we don't have very many times of this, but you can build in a agreement item that is not cost shareable, but that you have to do it. This would mostly be in the cost list agreement ones, the CLA, the technical assistance one, the requirements. So that's that. So that's all the definitions that I kind of wanted to cover. There will be plenty more terms and things that I'm sure everyone will want to know what the heck kind of language I'm speaking or trainers are speaking. Make sure you ask questions when you're going through the lesson plans. in your sessions. So lesson plan 4 talks about concentration desktop and CART resources. We're not going to go over CART. I guess I should have clarified that at first. We're not going to talk about CART in our 2.3 Idaho trainings. The reason is I don't feel like it's quite ready, and the final production release has not been published yet. So we're holding off, but everything we learn in 2.3 will then build on stuff for CART. We don't know quite yet what our CART structure is going to be for Idaho, or CART training structure, I guess I should say. But we're planning that probably February, March-ish, if we can get a good solid release of it out. So I should say when. I apologize. I should say when we get a solid release. So resources for training. So the training site is a very close replication of the production version. So you're going to see exactly what you, or not exactly, you're going to see mostly what you see in training, what is actually in production, so that when you get done with training, you can go to production and you're not going to be surprised and go, whoa, I don't remember seeing that. You'll have the training site, you'll use your link path to log in. For the training, make sure you remember your link path. So I'm going to include that on the checklist, but make sure you do remember it, because there's no other way, there's no other way to get into it. So bring your link path. One nice thing too with the training environment is that we can use the training environment after we've completed the training, so we can still access it. There's probably quite a few people that were around in Toolkit 8 rolled around where we had to have training computers, and we only had 30 of them, and the class participants were required, they went through the lesson plan, and then they said, okay, we're going to release Toolkit 8 in about a month. So hopefully you know what's going on, and in order to train a whole state, it takes a long time. So it was quite a, like getting hit by a train. You kind of all of a sudden get all this information, and then you lose it, and then you're supposed to know it in a month. So this makes things much smoother, where we can go back to that training site, or if you want to see how this function works before you try it on your actual case file, you can go try it in the training version and then go to the production. So I like that. National Planning Agreements Database will update about every quarter. Any defects that you find in the training site or production site, if you have any problems, work with your Conservation Desktop Cadre division rep, or myself, or Jerry, and then I will either help you work through it, and if I can't figure out if it's actually a defect, then we'll submit a ticket to ServiceNow. I'm the only, well, Jerry and I are the only ones that can enter these tickets in. If a general user just sends in a ticket to ServiceNow for Conservation Desktop, they will send it back to you and say, work with your business tools coordinator. They've actually been pretty strict about that, and I didn't think they would be, but they are. So make sure you work through us before you send in a defect. Here are just some general links. I am going to be sending out these slides here a little later. But these are the links for the Conservation Desktop training site, ProTrack's training site, Fund Manager training, and then FMI DMS training site. So I didn't even know that these existed about a year ago, but I found out that they did, and for all of these sites, I knew desktop training existed. I didn't know about Funds Manager and FMI DMS. I did know a little bit about training. So you can go in and play in these sites to figure out the environment and see how a certain reaction is going to take place on your example. There's also the Connect community. What's there? There's some lesson plans, webinar recordings from National Office, users guides, links to videos, emails sent to the CD coordinator, and then discussion forum as well. Anyone can have access to this. You just have to go through USDA Connect. I don't know how many people actually use USDA Connect, but if you want to do that, you can go join that community and follow along if you want as well. So SharePoint for Idaho, it's in the Tech Services training library, I've got a short little 1-minute video of how to get there. So I'm just going to play that and kind of talk through it. So I'm just going from the very beginning in Google, NRCS Idaho. I'm going to go to the home page and then go to topics, people, and then NRCS employees. And then I'm going to just click on Idaho SharePoint, and it's going to bounce me to the SharePoint site. And then you have to log in with your USDA email. Hit next. You go down to Tech Services over on the left. And then kind of in the middle on the top is the training library on the left there. Click on that. And then scroll down. The training library is sorted alphabetically by topics. So agronomy is up in the top, then biology, and then conservation desktop. So then I've updated a few of these things here, but this is the sites and information that you can use specific to Idaho. So hopefully that's helpful. I might be able to just attach this video into the email so you don't have to go into the PowerPoint as well. So if anyone wants to get access to SharePoint, that's how a typical pattern of how you would get there. Also, I mentioned the Idaho Conservation Desktop Cadre. So we have division reps at this time, Aubrey, Kara, Josh, Katie, and Jesse. And we also have area staff, Amber, Carrie, Glenn, and Eric, and then in the state office, myself and Jerry. We all have been trained or are being trained on Conservation Desktop and have worked hard to, or hopefully have worked hard to know our stuff on Conservation Desktop so we can solve problems or answer questions or help with training for brand new employees, whatever it may be. Reach out to them if you have questions or you have a problem. If you can't reach me right away or I'm busy, whatever it may be, reach out to these folks. They're very good at what they do, being a soil con, DC, whatever position they are, and then also just they're very tech savvy as well with this. So reach out and use them. Last of all, for resources, help is everywhere in Conservation Desktop. These are, let's see, 5 separate little screenshots that I took. This little help button will direct you to the user's guide directly to, if you're in map contents, it will zoom you to the map contents portion of the help guide so that you can know, okay, I need to add a layer and you don't know how to do it or you don't know what layer preferences or map tools. It'll take you right to that section. This is very handy. This is on every single dialogue. I shouldn't say every single one because somebody's going to find it and it's not going to be on one of them. But they're on a lot of them. On the majority of these dialogues, there's this help button. The user's guide is like 500 or 600 pages, so it takes a little bit to download, but it is very helpful if you're stuck and you don't have anybody you can reach out to. It's very helpful. All right. Lesson Plan 7. So Lesson Plan 7 is the user interface overview. And I am going to show you the table of contents, map view, tables, toolbars, just kind of give you a high-level overlook of it. We're going to go into depth in a lot of these things in the training and then also in some future webinars. So before I go to the live demo, I want to show you this slide. I'm going to refer to these terms like the CD toolbar, the center toolbar. These are the locations. The table of contents, we're going to be in and out of the table of contents so many times. You're going to want to be familiar with the table of contents as a planner. And then the table view also shows you kind of just like the attribute table that's constantly available. And you can hide, and I'll show you that as well. Map tools over there on your right, draw tools, label tools. And then we also have map contents, which isn't shown, but it's shown in that center toolbar, or it's displayed in the center toolbar. So with that, I'm going to go to the live demo. So I'm just going to click on this link, which is the training site. So like I said, what's going on here? Like I said, the Conservation Desktop uses your link pass or EOP. If you're a brand new employee and you don't have your link pass, you can use the user ID and password as long as IT has granted that permission for you. If you are just an employee, you have a link pass, just click on the link pass like we typically would. They're going to have me put in my number. Now Conservation Desktop is going to load. So I'm going to go through this lesson plan. I've kind of highlighted a few things that I want to talk about. So hopefully I don't go too fast. If I go too fast, that's okay. You're going to see all of this stuff later. Or if you need me to slow down, just tell me to slow down. So purpose of this lesson plan is to provide an overview, kind of high-level cut. So let's just, I'll go ahead and get started here. So this Conservation Desktop toolbar, it's located up at the top right. So you can see my mouse right here, and it provides quick access to the most commonly used tools. I'm not going to talk about every single one of them in depth. This is the Funds Manager. It's where money is balanced. Most of the work is going to be done by the state office at that time in the Funds Manager. They're going to use that. This is Conservation Client Gateway Employee Portal view. Then this is for reports. I would say that reports and Conservation Client Gateway are mostly going to be state office clicking on this as well, but field users can obviously use them as well. So documents. Documents are, this is the Conservation Desktop Document Management. Allows users to upload, manage electronic documents, electronically sign uploaded documents, and ensure that all documents have been uploaded based on contracts or applications, and view documents associated to a single application, participant contract, or a contract item. So this is a replica of the Fund Manager DMS that we currently use for second level reviews, audit requests, whatever, our document management system. It has the same information, it just lets us refine what we're looking at a little bit more, all the way down to the contract item, or I should say the agreement item level. So then the task list, I'm not going to talk about task list. It does a lot with financial assistance tasks. I don't feel the need to show that right now. It's kind of an extra thing that we don't need to bog ourselves down with. We may in the future. Assistance notes will populate right here. I'll show you that once I get my case file loaded up. An assistance note, in that dialog we can capture important planning information, create a note, edit a note, filter notes, create a report. So that's what we can do there. It's only available when a client or case file is in view in the table of contents. Okay, so HELC and WC. This is the highly erodible land compliance and wetland compliance tracker that I've mentioned. At this time, we're not going to go into it. We're going to provide a training in February or March regarding this and its use and roles. Might come out with a bulletin as well, kind of explaining what needs to be done for logging those HEL and wetland compliance requests. Client search. As you can see, as I hover over these, it's going to give me any of these buttons. It will tell me what that button is. So that's some added in features. Client search is for before creating a case file, we may need to search for the client and then build the case file. So it allows the users to search for the service center, easement, and non-USDA clients. And then users also can create case files through there as well as non-USDA client records. So search. The search is you search for an open case file, practice schedule, or an agreement. It's got advanced search features. We're going to talk about that in lesson plan 8. It's one of the first lesson plans we talk about in our hands-on trainings. It also shows you recent searches to view and repeat the most recent searches. And it has links to ProTrack's Fund Manager and the FA Tracker. I'll give you a brief look at that here in a second. The Help button is the user's guide. And it opens up in a separate window. I'm not going to click on it because, like I said, it's like 600 pages and it takes a while to load. But it loads in a PDF that is linked, so you can click and go through and search whatever you need to do. You can also request accessibility. I forgot that I could click on it. So you get help documentation or request accessibility assistance. And then the user menu. So this is located with your initials. You can go in and change and update your preferences, data configuration. A lot of you probably won't use that portion of this. You can check on the version of Conservation Desktop, or you can log off. Basically, this is just going to give you a date of the last major rollout of Conservation Desktop. So the last one was the 1st of the month. So now I'm going to go and search for a case file. So I'm going to click on my search. This is going to be probably 90% of what we do when we start in Conservation Desktop is click on the search. The State Service Center will default to our user preferences. I currently have all of my service centers selected and ARCO as my default. I'm going to come in. I just know my case file name and click search. This is that advanced search options. You can search all the way down to the practice level and planned years to be able to find case files that have a certain practice in them. Basically, it's just searching the NPAD database, which is really nice. You can search by track, client name, or even application or contract number. So I'll click search. ProTrack's links over here on the right. You can jump you right to ProTrack's Fund Manager, ProTrack's reports. A lot of this information here. You can take those direct links. So here's my case file. It says I'm already using it. I already clicked on it today, so I must not have closed it. I'm just going to click on it again. We can either click on the hyperlink, or we can use the actions icon to open the case file. So I'm just going to use the hyperlink because that's what we're mostly going to do. Once we do that, Conservation Desktop is going to load this case file into our table of contents. The table of contents is over on the left side of the application window. When a client case file practice schedule agreement or request is open, these items will be displayed in the table of contents. We can expand or minimize this. Oh, it's right there. I'm zoomed in just a little bit, I guess, so it gives me the slider bar for my table of contents. This little gray bar right here allows us to collapse that table of contents, gives us more map view to work with. Or we can come back over here and click it once to open it up. Don't click and drag. Click and drag will not open it. It will make it wider or smaller, but when you first open it, it won't. We kind of figured that out here in Idaho. So just click it once on that bar anywhere when your line goes with the two horizontal arrows. So in the table of contents, we're going to start at the top. This is the client panel. So this is going to show, always going to be shown when there's a case file, practice schedule, or agreement is open. You click on the client name to expand it like I just did. These are the options that you can have. You can manage your cases if you have multiple cases there. Or create a new case, add an application. This takes you to ProTrack's, and so on and so forth. So now we're going to go down to the case file panel. So I'm just going to click it once, left click to open it up. Case file is equivalent to the toolkit customer folder. Land units are created and edited in the case file. There's two types of case files in Conservation Desktop. There's a conservation case file and an easement case file. I'm not going to show you the easement one right now, but if you were in an easement case file, there would be an E in this folder right here to delineate it. In the lesson plan, there is a screenshot showing a conservation case file and an easement case file, so you can see the different options. They're very similar. Easement case files just have view cooperating entities. Easement case files are associated to at least one client and to a service center, and they're also associated to a nest easement record number. And there can only be, each easement case file can only have one easement number. Okay, so now jump down to the practice schedule panel. So this is a practice schedule. It could be called master plan. It could be conservation plan. I renamed it to just be EQIP 2020 because that's sometimes what we name our plans. It could be CRP 2020 or CRP sign up down 42 or whatever it is. 53. Oh, 53. I don't know. I don't even know. I shouldn't be saying that. So it could be whatever, your naming convention you want to use. Project schedule is associated to at least one client and to a case file. In the lesson plans, we're going to add a client, so we'll kind of show you that. You add land units, edit practices, so on and so forth. Easement case files and conservation case files display just a little bit differently, but they're very similar. So the agreement panel, that is this one. This is our typical, this is an EQIP contract, so it's got an EQIP number. A lot of these links, or most of these links, take us to ProTracks. I'll show you just for fun. Maybe. Give me a break from my voice. So as you saw, I clicked on Open Application, and it opened up automatically to the application in ProTracks. So that's handy. You can hit Manage Application. It'll take you automatically to the ProTracks Manage Application screen. In easements, instead of no, there is an agreement panel for easements, and there's also a programs folder. Basically, this is just going to relay the information from Nest to give general information, landowner, when the easement was closed. All that information shows up in that program folder. That just shows up underneath the agreement panel. Okay, so map view and table view. Map view and table view provide an interactive mapping interface and display information for case files, practice schedules, and agreements, open conservation desktop. One thing I want to show with this map, so this is our map view, obviously, and then here's our table view. So I'm going to click over here on the bottom right, show tables. It looks funny because I'm so zoomed in right now. On your desktop monitors, it's going to look much better. But if I select field 1 under case PLUs, it's going to highlight on the map. Now, so it's interactive, so both ways. So if I highlight or I select field 8, it's going to come down here and select 8. With case PLUs and practices, there is an edit button. So you can click on edit, you can add some of the attributes there. You can also do that through the other dialog as well. But that's through the table view. Within tables, I'm going to go to table controls. So I already showed you the hide and show tables down here. You can filter or sort. Sorry, you can sort these by, what was that called? Ascending or descending order. You can also come over here to table options and export to a CSV or an Excel file. You can zoom to selected. Which we're already kind of there. Or you can hit clear selection. So let's do that. Practice schedule, same things over here on the tab. As long as you have a practice schedule open, you'll be able to see that practice schedule tab. You can select the practice, so 382, or we can select that 314. For some reason that zoom 2, there we go. There's a zoom 2. And then you need to hide your labels to kind of go back. So there's your table controls. It's got that edit button, sort, descending, ascending. Oh yes. So within the table, you can see there's this radio button up here. So you have a TA and an FA. So TA is just going to give you the basic information. An FA is going to give you the agreement number, sub-account, contract item number, obligation amount, payment amount, and agreement status options. So my internet connection is really loving me today. So there's our FA view, and if we scroll over, we can see here's our agreement number. So if you had multiple contracts, you could sort that. If you want to see or take off more, we could turn on practice name, we could turn off the track number, PLU number, whatever we want to turn on and off, we can do that and then export however we want. So that's that. Center toolbar. So now that we've zoomed into a site, but now we don't really want that site to show up anymore. We want to zoom back out to our full field, all the fields we have. We can hit this home button. It's just going to take us back to the entire operation. All of the practice schedule PLUs will show up there. New to Conservation Desktop 2.3 is the Select tool. When you have a dialog open, this little drop-down arrow will give you options to select only polygon practices or only point practices, whatever you may want. And the hand or the pan is new, so we can actually slide around. In 2.2 we didn't have that, so this is nice. The filter tool allows us options to be able to filter practices, land units to show on or off. This helps when creating reports, printing maps, or wanting to sort out your practice table to be able to go in there and edit that. So we'll talk a little bit about filters, and I actually use them quite a bit when I'm doing some quality assurance reviews. Previous, extent, and the future or next extent, so you could go back and forth there. Zoom to selected, and then clear selected is here, and then let's go back to home. So just kind of that in and out, playing around. This is map content, so this is where we're going to work out our practice layers. Everything above the line, how do I explain that? Everything above the line comes from a feature source, and everything below the line comes from what's being provisioned either nationally or statewide. As you can see, we have the soils layer available now. You can control what layer draws first or last. You can turn on or off practice labels here. We'll get into this version of map contents. New to 2.3 is this import layer, so you can import a shapefile, GeoJSON, or one other, I can't remember, it's just got to be zipped files. So we can import shapefiles now to Conservation Desktop, which is very nice and handy. Let's go over to map tools. So we are over on map contents. Now we're over to map tools, which is like a picture of a folding map. Some of the buttons that we're not going to talk too much about, but I'll touch them here, is selecting the background layer, so we can change this background layer really quick, give us a street view, whatever we want to choose there. Layer preferences is a spot that we're going to go to very first in our hands-on training. The very first day, we're going to select which layers we want to have. And then preview map also is the conservation practice symbology. So that's really beautiful. Obviously, I need to filter that down before I print a map, but I don't want to make everybody too mad, so we're going to shut that back off. Okay, so that is map tools. I'm going to cover map tools in a separate webinar. These tools aren't necessarily required to have done for the 2.3 training, but I feel like they are some handy, like measure, identify, find. There's some pretty cool features that have been built in. Draw tools, again, I'm going to cover this in a later webinar. These are drawing graphics. Graphics don't stick. They are only there until you hit refresh or close the case file. They do not come back once the case file is reopened. The buffer tool is also located within that. And then create labels is also another button over there. We're going to go in pretty good depth in creating labels. So I'm not going to go into that, but you can also create annotations and label other things on the map. So that's the basic gist of Conservation Desktop, the user interface. If I were a brand new person or I had no experience in Conservation Desktop, I would go into the email that I sent everyone, or this calendar invite, and look at this lesson plan 7 and just poke around in this training environment and just click on a few things. That's the way I learn the best, is breaking things usually. You're not going to break it, but just poke around, see what's going on, see what you can figure out kind of on your own, and go from there. So that's it for my live demo. Got just a few more minutes, and then I'll open it up for any questions. So, so that was our overview. So one thing that I thought didn't go as smoothly in our 2.2 training was locating the link for Conservation Desktop. We used the checklist. It was fine, but then we had to keep the checklist open. So I'm hoping that everyone can, well, I'm wanting everyone to watch this webinar and then follow at least this as well, as setting the favorite in Internet Explorer. So here's the steps for setting that favorite. Conservation Desktop it will not save the favorite unless you change the URL in properties, because it has to be the EOF link when you hit the favorite. It has to go in and log you in. If not, it just says you can't find this page because you're not logged in, and there's just a few little things. So this is the way you have to save the favorite. And then use Conservation Desktop in Internet Explorer. Edge, Chrome, Firefox, they just don't have the same success that they do in Internet Explorer. Conservation Desktop was built for Internet Explorer, so let's try and use that. We have seen some weird stuff go on in Edge, even though Internet Explorer and Edge are supposed to be very similar. Some weird crap has happened in Edge. So I'm going to go through this. I just wanted to write out the instructions, and I'm not going to repeat them. I've got another little 1-minute video explaining or showing what I did to save a favorite. So I'm just using this link. Anywhere you get the training link, if it's the SharePoint, wherever, we just need to go in and copy it, and then come back and click on it to go to that site to make the favorite. So it's going to EOF you in like it did before. Then we're going to go up the top right, hit the star, and add the favorites. And then we're going to rename it, and I'd strongly encourage you to name it training, because the production favorite is going to show you the same thing. I'm going to pause this. So I didn't point this out, but the training site will come up on the training environment. In production, there's not anything. So that's how you can know for sure that you're in the training or production site, is checking there. So, but saving it correctly in your favorites will help you. So let's play. I'm going to go down and put it wherever I want. I'm going to put it on my favorites bar so you can see it pop up there in the top right. And then I'm going to right click and go down to properties. And once that populates, I'm going to erase the current URL because it saves it without the EOF. So I'm going to select it and erase it, and then paste the one that I copied into, and then hit OK. Now, every time you go click on that link, you'll be loaded into Conservation Desktop training, instead of before it would have just timed you out. So another quick video to kind of help you get that set. See what else I have here. Okay, so now, now I just have any questions anybody has. Anybody have any issues with the AgLearn, getting registered? I sent out a few. Tricia came up to me and told me I was sending out way too many emails, so I apologize, but this is pretty important, and there's been just a few problems with AgLearn, so don't just dismiss my emails, please. They are important. But are there any questions out there? You can either write them down in the chat in Adobe Connect, or go ahead and go on your phone or in the room. So yeah, the folders are going to, or the time to check in and check out folders does reduce. I was helping Jessica Anderson yesterday in Conservation Desktop. We were just kind of going over some basic new employee kind of stuff, new user stuff. And we were in Conservation Desktop, bouncing around, trying to figure out how to get this to work. And then I remembered that we had a problem with the production environment and the CSP contracts and removing land units, whatever. We have to do it through Toolkit. So I was like, okay, Jessica, don't worry about it. I'll just go into Toolkit and do it because I don't want to have to teach you how to use Toolkit as well because it's just a mess. And I think it took me probably 30 minutes to check out this Toolkit folder. Obviously, I was doing other things, but it took me 30 minutes to check it out, 5 minutes to do the work, 30 minutes to check it back in, and in Conservation Desktop, I mean, it would have taken me 10 minutes total. So yeah, it's going to dramatically, I mean, I won't tell your supervisors you're going to have all this extra time, but you're going to have some time to go to the field, do conservation planning, do what you want to do some extra studying. I won't tell Curtis. Hopefully he's not listening. He's probably listening. But there is going to be some extra time, and so hopefully that will relieve some of your worries there. Oh, and case files only are locked for 24 hours. So if a user goes on vacation, if Travis here at the state office is using somebody's folder, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to go on vacation for a week, and you're kind of stuck, right? You don't know if what Travis's work has done in Toolkit is valuable, and you can't just release the lock. So you end up waiting for a whole week to do any work because he's using that case file. Not in Conservation Desktop, it's only 24 hours. Whatever's not saved will just go away. I mean, in that session, it'll just go away. So, yeah.
So, Ori, when we did modifications in ProTrack, then that would lock the folder in Toolkit. Mm-hmm. So does that not happen then in CD?
It does, depending. It does, depending on how what the modification is.
Okay.
You can go in and edit assistance notes while it's in modification, though.
Okay.
So if you're in modification and you need to add note, you can go do that.
Okay.
So.
I'm just worried that if it's in modification mode and it unlocks 24 hours later, we have not approved that modification, then we have to start all over again?
So if it's locked in ProTracks, it's going to be locked in ProTracks until it's unlocked in ProTracks.
Gotcha. Okay.
But if it's locked in Desktop, then it's just going to unlock in 24 hours.
Thank you.
Yeah, good clarification. Any other questions out there? Thank you for your guys' hour of your day today. I'm going to post this and send it out with the checklist, and that should be by the next few weeks, or the next week. Sorry, but I'm going to send it out by tomorrow. And my days are double right now. So just let me know if you have any questions, if you have any problems. We'll see you in your desktop trainings. Be excited. You're going to get pens and lesson plan manuals and a binder with 3 rings. Anyone that has a 2.2 manual, we're just going to throw those away. And I know it's cutting down trees. Yeah, recycle it. There we go. But we just replaced, and we got the lesson plans are a mesh of both CD 2.2 and 2.3. So thank you again, and we'll see you soon.